girl who fell from the sky and walked out of the Amazon. High above the Amazon rainforest, on Christmas Eve 1971, a plane flew straight into a storm. Lightning cracked through the sky. Rain hammered the windows. Passengers held their breath. And then, a blinding flash. An explosion of light. The plane was struck. Within seconds, it began to break apart. At 10,000 feet in the air, a 17-year-old girl was ripped from her seat, still strapped in, and thrown into the sky. Not into the water, not into the land, but into one of the most dangerous places of the world, the Amazon rainforest. She fell for over 2 miles, and somehow she survived. Her name was Juliane Koepcke, and this is a story of a girl who fell from the sky and walked out of the jungle alone. Juliane wasn't just a random passenger. She was raised differently, born in Peru to 2 German scientists. Her parents weren't city people. They were biologists, researchers, explorers. They studied wildlife in the deep Amazon rainforest. And because of that, Juliane didn't grow up with a normal childhood comforts. She grew up learning how to survive, how to read the forest, how to understand animals, how to move through dense jungle. Skills that at the time probably just felt like part of life, but years later would become the reason she lived. On December 24th, 1971, it was Christmas Eve. Juliane and her mother boarded a flight from Lima, Pucallpa in Peru. Juliane and her mother boarded a flight from Lima to Pucallpa in Peru. The airline was Lanza, a small airline with questionable safety records. But they didn't know that. They just wanted to get home to her father. At first, everyone was normal. Everything was normal. The hum of the engines, passengers chatting quietly, the feeling of routine flight. Until the storm came. Dark clouds swallowed the sky. Turbulence began to shake the plane. Then harder, then violently, and suddenly, lightning struck the aircraft. The plane didn't shake. It made massive, massive sounds. It broke apart, mid-air. Passengers screamed. Metal tore open. Seats ripped free. And the moment that feels almost impossible to imagine, Juliane was no longer inside the plane. She was outside, still strapped to her seat, falling through the sky, spinning, helpless, surrounded by nothing but air and fragments of broken aircraft. She later described it as floating, but there was no control, no way to stop, no way to survive. And yet, after falling roughly 3,000 meters, she crashed. Not onto hard ground, but into a thick canopy of rainforest. Branches, leaves, vines. They all slowed her descent, just enough to keep her alive. It was 6:30 a.m. in the morning when Juliane opened her eyes. The world was silent. No engines, no voices, no rescue teams. Just the sound of insects. And the forest. She was injured. A broken collarbone, a deep cut in her arm. One eye swollen shut, but she was alive. 17 years old, in the middle of the Amazon, completely alone. Out of 92 people on that plane, she was the only survivor. At first, she didn't panic. Not fully, because shock has a strange way of protecting you. But slowly, reality began to set in. Her mother was gone. There were no signs of life, no voices calling, no search helicopters, just jungle, endless jungle. And she knew something important, something her parents had taught her. If you want to survive in the Amazon, you don't wander aimlessly. You follow the water, because water leads to people. She began to walk, barefoot, injured, weak, hungry. She found a small stream and followed it, step by step, day by day. The Amazon is not forgiving. The heat is suffocating, humidity consistent, and the ground uneven and thick. Insects crawl over everything. Mosquitoes swarm. Every sound could mean danger. Snakes, spiders, predators. And she had no food, just a few sweets she found in the wreckage. That was it. But this is where her life changed everything. Most people would have panicked, run, made mistakes. But Juliane didn't. She stayed calm. She remembered what she had learned. She didn't drink dirty, still water. She followed the stream. She kept moving, even when her body was breaking down, even when exhaustion hit, even when hope started to fade. She kept going, one step at a time. We look at some of her hardest moments. Days had passed, then more days. No rescue, no people. Her wounds worsened. Maggots began to infest her arm. At this point, most people would give up. But she didn't. She remembered something else. Maggots can sometimes prevent infection. So instead of panicking, she endured it. She kept walking. After 10 days, something changed. She heard a sound. Not animals, not the forest, but something else. A man-made sound. A boat engine. Following the stream had worked. She found a small hut belonging to local lumber workers. No one was there, but there was something even more valuable. Fuel. She used it to clean her wounds, to force the maggots out, and then she waited. Eventually, workers returned, and when they saw her, a young girl, alone, injured, walking out of the Amazon after a plane crash, they couldn't believe it. She had just survived 10 days in one of the hardest environments on earth. They took her to safety, and finally, after everything, she was rescued. Her story shocked the world. How could someone fall from the sky and live? Experts later said it was a combination of factors: the way she fell, the seat absorbing the impact, the canopy breaking her descent. But survival was something else entirely. That came from her. Her mindset, her knowledge, her resilience. Years later, Juliane returned to the Amazon, not as a victim, but as a scientist, following in her parents' footsteps. She studied biology, worked in the rainforest, and even helped rescuers understand more about the crash. And even helped researchers understand more about the crash. She didn't run from her story. She faced it and turned it into something meaningful. Because this story isn't just about survival, it's about preparation. It's about mindset in life. It's about how the things we learn in life, even when they seem small, can one day save us. Juliane didn't survive by luck alone. She survived because she knew how to think, how to stay calm, how to keep moving. A girl fell from the sky into the heart of the Amazon, and somehow walked out, alive, alone, unbroken. And maybe the most incredible of all is she didn't just survive the fall, she survived everything that came after. If this story stayed with you, if it made you think or reminded you of how strong human spirit can be, make sure you like and subscribe, because there are more stories worth knowing like this. Stories worth telling. Thank you.